Today on Brilliance Business TV, we have the incredible Dr. John Demartini. John is a human behaviour expert, polymath, and internationally published author. Stay tuned. Welcome to Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler, and I am joined with my incredible co-host, Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. We are streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're on the E360 TV network. We're on Business Innovators Radio Network, USA Global Radio and Television Network, and we're also on mspnewsglobal.com and many more as well. Welcome, Dr. Rhonda. Are you looking forward to a conversation with Dr. John Demartini?
Oh, absolutely, Mark. First of all, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you again for the opportunity to co-host. And yeah, I'm really excited because, this is definitely one of the topics that are very near and dear to my heart. So I'm ready to dive in.
Me too. And the topic today is around mental health, which is so important. And I know it's not just a small problem. I think everyone at some point in their life has had some kind of mental health issue. I know I have, and had to have overcome some of those things. And I still have to work on mindset daily as well. So I think it's a great topic. So let's bring in our incredible guest, Dr. John Demartini. Welcome, John, to Brilliance Business TV.
Oh, well, thank you for having me again. Appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. The pleasure is all ours. I will get started with the first question. Dr. John, how can people use your breakthrough experience method to transform mental health challenges into breakthrough moments?
Well, I've been fascinated by mental faculties and how to maximize mental faculties for over 5 decades. The breakthrough experience is one of my signature programs that are designed to assist people in taking their perceived apparent chaos and discovering the missing information so they can awaken a hidden order and see life on the way, not in the way. Let me give you an example. If you meet somebody in business or in life in general, and you are attracted and a bit infatuated and enamored with them, you are conscious of the upsides and somewhat unconscious of the downsides. And so that unconscious is missing information. Now, a day, a week, a month, or a year later, you will discover those downsides if you hang out with them. They'll show themselves, like in all relationships. But you were fooled initially by being unconscious of some of the downsides. So too, you can meet somebody that you initially meet and you could resent them and dislike them and want to avoid them and be conscious of the downsides, not conscious of the upsides. And again, a day, a week, a month, a year, you may discover that these people are very amazing people and contribute to your life. So instead of waiting for the wisdom of the ages with the aging process, why not ask quality questions to become conscious of what you overlooked and center yourself and balance it, which changes the excitation inhibition ratios in the brain, stabilizes the mental and emotional faculties, and allows you to be present instead of having intrusive thoughts. And when you're infatuated or resentful, they occupy space and time in your mind and distract you. In fact, they have difficulty sleeping at night if they're extreme. So by stabilizing it and asking questions that bring balance to the perception and awaken information that you overlooked, you're able to see the hidden order in the apparent chaos and stabilize yourself mentally and emotionally and physically and be more present and intrinsically driven instead of extrinsically evoked by stimuli that are imbalanced.
That makes perfect sense to me. I think we all at some point have either idolized someone or seen them as a villain. And I think it's about having the balance right, knowing that we all have the traits. And I know you've done a lot of research on that as well, that the traits reside within everyone. And I think as well, that does create a lot of issues with mental health when you are having those imbalanced perceptions as well. So a great point there. Dr. Rhonda, over to you.
Yes, excellent point. Dr. Demartini, you often teach that life is perfectly balanced and that every challenge comes with an equal and opposite gift. So when it comes to mental health, this perspective can obviously be completely life-changing, right? So Dr. Demartini, can you share what sort of universal laws help people to see both the gift and the challenge in their mental health struggles?
Well, there was a book in 1932 by Walter Cannon called Wisdom of the Body. And in there, as did Claude Bernard, demonstrate that there's an internal homeostatic mechanism inside the psyche and soma. In other words, in our brain, we take perturbing, evoking stimuli on the outside that perturb the balance and then return them back to the balance through homeostatic, through a negative feedback system. Our brain is filled with millions of negative feedback loops in order to stabilize, because if the internal environment is not stable, we have illness. So we have a massive amount of, you might say, internal regulatory systems for that purpose. If we hold on to conscious perturbations and misperceptions of our environment, this strains the normal homeostatic mechanism. And I always say that the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. If you ask questions which make you conscious of things you overlooked and ask the question that balances out the misperception, let's say you think you've had a trauma. Well, actually, the event that you labeled a trauma is an event. It's just an event. How you interpret it can change how you respond. Let me give you a funny example. If I was to put your hand on a table and slam it with a hammer and slam your thumb, you go, ow, what the heck? Why did you do that, right?
Right.
And you just go, wow, that's traumatic.
Mm.
But if I told you in advance, I'm going to give you $1 billion cash, I'm going to give you a mansion without taxes of your dreams, the car of your dreams, the man or woman of your dreams, or whatever gender you want, spectrum. And all you have to do is slam your thumb, and you'll be sore for about 5 to 10 days, and it'll be perfectly normal in 10 days, but you'll get all that.
You can do my 2 hands and you can do my 2 feet.
Your hands on the table. So it's not the event, it's the expectations and the perceptions associated with the event. So we can take an event and we think it's traumatic, and all of a sudden, can I give you an actual example, or is that going to take too much? Is that okay if I give?
No, you have as much time as you want, Dr. John.
Okay. So I had a gentleman who came to my breakthrough experience program, and he was probably around 35, 40. His mother and the rest of his family were there where his mother, and the mother was soon to die. And the family called him and said, I think you better get here. I think she's going to go the next day or two. He said, well, I got a big business plan that needs to be addressed in a big business meeting tomorrow. The second there, I'm flying in. Well, he wakes up the next morning and she had passed away. So he's now distraught. He's feeling guilty. He feels I should have been there, but he didn't. His values were business, and he wanted to do that business transaction, but now he's feeling like kind of a schmuck. Mm. So he's feeling guilty. Well, by the time he gets to me, this is 3 years has gone by, and he's still feeling like he let his mom down and he feels guilty. So I asked him a question. What is the benefit to you not making it to see your mom? How did it benefit your mom? She said, well, he says, how could it be? There's no benefit to that. And I said, no, how does it benefit? You're seeing all the drawbacks. You're now feeling shame and guilt. You're now distraught. It's affecting you. It's perturbing your life. How did it benefit your mom? I can't see it. I don't know. He was stuck in this kind of absolute view. So I reversed the psychology. If you had made it there and left the day before, that night before, and didn't do that business meeting, what would have been the drawback to your mom if you'd made it? And all of a sudden he paused and he goes, wow. And he got tears in his eyes. He said, if I'd have made it, I would have messed something up. My mother died in my sister's arms, and they had not talked in years. And my mom did not want to die without resolving that. And my sister had emotions and was stubborn. And this is what resolved it. If I had been there, because of the conflict, I had judged my sister, she would not have made it. And I would have interfered with my mom's last wishes. He said, right now, I'm very grateful that I didn't make it now. And my guilt's gone. And I realized that there was some sort of hidden order and I didn't see it. And I was stuck in my chaos. And so that's why I tell people, when you perceive drawbacks without benefits, you label it trauma. When you see benefits without drawbacks, you can label it ecstasy. When you see both of them, you get to have your heart open and feel love again and feel centered again, and poised and present and purposeful and patient, productive and prioritized. So the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. If you ask questions that equilibrate the mind, you liberate the mind from the intrusive thoughts of the things that occupy space and time in your mind. You go back to spontaneous action potentials in the brain instead of evoked potentials, which means you're inner directed instead of outer directed and by the judgments of other people. I'd rather have the whole world against me than my own soul, as the old proverb says.
That's really, really powerful. And I think it's so true that you can label things as negative or working against you. And oftentimes when you look back, you realize that there were blessings and they could always be working in your favor as well. So I think I'm taking from that about asking the question, because even I can tend to do that sometimes, maybe look at the negative side of things. So maybe asking myself, what is the benefit to me from this, and what's the positive side? I think that's really, really powerful, John. How can someone reframe their mental health journey as a pathway to discovering their authentic, inspired life?
Their authentic self is always a balance of the positive and negatives. We have been inundated with a fantasy. Paul Dirac, the Nobel Prize winner, said, it's not that we don't know so much, it's that we know so much that it's so. We're taught misinformation many times. And the fantasy that we're supposed to get rid of half of ourselves and be only one-sided. In Buddhism, there was a great statement: the desire for that which is unobtainable and the desire to avoid that which is unavoidable is the source of human suffering. So trying to get rid of half of us and only be one-sided is futile. Not going to happen. And so sometimes people think that they need to be one-sided: nice, never mean; kind, never cruel; positive, never negative; peaceful, never wrathful. And they think they should be one-sided. But the true authentic self is the synthesis of both. Imagine going into a relationship and you're saying, you have an expectation. I need you to be never nice, never mean; kind, never cruel; positive, never negative; happy, never sad; joy, never sorrow; giving, never taking. And you expect them to be one-sided. They're not going to be able to do that. There's no human being can do it. You won't stay in a relationship very long if you have that delusion. But if you know that they have a set of values, and when you support their values, they're nice as a pussycat, you challenge their values, they're mean as a tiger, and you can understand that they're going to have both. They're going to be nice and mean and support and challenge and positive and negative. And if you can look in the mirror and realize that's you and embrace all of you, you can have your authentic self. Otherwise, you're going to put on a facade. You're going to repress the other side. It's going to draw in somebody to make you express it and explode it, to try to balance it out. And so if you really want to have a stable being and be authentic, which people want to be loved for who they are, and that's what it's about. You got to embrace all of you. And that's why I tell people, whatever you see in others, look within, you have it too. It's an old proverb from Romans 2:1, that whatever you judge in others, look within, because you haven't done the same thing. And I found that actually true. So I don't waste myself trying to get rid of half of myself in order to love myself. I embrace all of me, the hero, the villain, the saint, the sinner, the positive, the negative, the giver, the taker. All of it is you. And if you can embrace all that, you can have fulfillment. Every part you're trying to get rid of is getting rid of some of the fulfillment you have for your life.
So my question to that, Dr. John, would be, how do you embrace things that you label really negative or really really horrible? Like if you have horrible thoughts, how do you embrace that?
There's a thing called cognitive reappraisal, where you ask a new set of questions and become conscious of things you were unconscious of. You can only have a negative assignment to things when you choose to look at only the downside of it. That's your choice. You know, the amygdala, which is the subcortical nuke in the brain, assigns valency to the hippocampus, where you store episodic memories, and you label those things. That doesn't mean that's what it is. It means that you've chosen to see only one portion of it. I'll get another story if it's okay. I had a lady that came to the breakthrough experience in Florida. She was around 47 or 48. She claimed that she came from, she had an abandoning mother. Her mother abandoned her and came from a dysfunctional family. That's the label that her therapist and all the other people that was in her support group wanted to label her, so she could be victim of history instead of a master of destiny. And I asked her a question that nobody seemed to ask her. Good. What specific trait, action or inaction, do you perceive your mother did not display because she left that you missed out on? And she said, I didn't have somebody to give me affection. I didn't have some guidance. I didn't have this. I said, nothing's missing. It transforms. The master lives in a world of transformation, never the illusions of gain and loss. Who took on that role in your life when your mother left? And she said, nobody. I said, no, stop. You didn't even attempt to look. You told me nobody within a half a second. Look, wow. Who took on that role? She said, my aunt. I said, who else? My grandmother. Who else? My best friend's mom. Who else? Another best friend, mom. Who else? One of my earliest teachers. I said, now, is the quantity of what they provide, is that equal what you imagine your mom giving? She goes, yes. What's the benefit of them providing it, not your mom? Well, I got to learn a different language. I got a greater source of income for my aunt because she had a better stable career. I did really well in some of my classes. I got opportunities to travel because of my friends. They invite me to come and be part of their family because they knew my mom wasn't there. I said, now, what would have been the drawback if your mom had given you those behaviors? She never asked that question. She created a fantasy and painted an unrealistic expectation on how her mom should be, ought to be, supposed to be, instead of actually what it would have been. What would have been if your mom had been there? And she paused. She got teary-eyed. And she goes, wow, all of a sudden something's coming up that my aunt said when I was 4. I said, what is it? She cried. She said, my mom put me in a bath and walked away and forgot me. I almost drowned and I got scalded and kind of burned. Not severe, but I got burned. When my mother found me and found the mess, she decided that because she had bipolar condition, that she was unsafe and unworthy of taking care of her child, and gave it to her aunt to raise, and stayed away because she didn't want her daughter to have to be impacted by her. She didn't abandon her. She loved her enough to give her an opportunity that she couldn't provide. When she heard that now, as a 47-8-year-old woman, she overlooked it at 4 because she didn't want to believe it. She wanted to hold on to her fantasy. When she got that, she started crying and she goes, my mother didn't abandon me. She loved me to give me an opportunity that only a mother like that could give. And all of a sudden, her self-image swapped from being an abandoned person and now hanging out with low socioeconomic individuals that felt she was only worthy of, who used to kind of do things that you wouldn't want to hear about. She's now reframed herself, shifted her whole perspective, decided to write a book on reframing her life. Her self-image changed, her weight dropped, her looks, the way she dressed, everything changed. And she believed that she wanted to do something amazing with her life because of her mom, not in spite of it. It changed because of a reframing. The quality of your life is based on the quality of the question, Jess. Quality questions make you conscious of things you overlooked and were unconscious of. If all of a sudden you become conscious of both sides, as Wilhelm Wundt, the father of experimental psychology, said, if you can see both sides simultaneously, when the excitatory and inhibition ratio in the brain are simultaneous, you now have an awakened mind where you're poised and grateful and feel love and are inspired and spontaneously act on something that's meaningful. So the quality of your life is that. And that's all of my work, how to ask people questions to make them cognizant of what they've overlooked, to be able to see the hidden order in the apparent chaos so they can see life on the way, not in the way, and unburden themselves of the weight of gravity and radiate themselves in a state of more of an enlightened awareness.
Wow. So powerful. I think, yeah, having those questions of not just looking at the positive, looking at the negative. And if you're looking at something really positive and really excited about it, also putting the balance back so that you've got that balance there. I'm going to remember to keep that balance. I think it's really, really important.
Otherwise, I'm going to say you'll land on Mars today.
I want you to smash both my hands and my feet and give me a house and $1 billion.
Yes.
Dr. Rhonda, do you want to ask Dr. John a question?
Yes, absolutely. So Dr. Demartini, thank you so much just for your wisdom and just your perspectives on things. They're very enlightening. And I wanted to ask you, I know there are a lot of people who are facing ongoing stressors, and I know you talked a little bit about trauma, and in terms of mental health, I know there's a lot of people who maybe even silently, battle depression and anxiety and things of that nature and are looking for that inner peace and joy. And so I know that gratitude is something that you emphasize often as a powerful transformative force. And so how can someone use the power of gratitude, even in the middle of what they're going through, in the middle of these types of struggles, to reframe their mental health journey and find that inner and greater meaning that they're searching for?
Well, that's a great question. There's two types of gratitude. A superficial gratitude when things are supporting what you want, and you're going, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a deep gratitude when you see challenge and you're not seeing the upside, and you go and ask, what are those upsides, and hold yourself accountable to see them. They're hidden. They're there. There is no such thing as a one-sided event. It does not exist. People want to blame things and want to run the story, and they want to be victims of history, planning their lives around this illusion. This happened to me. No, this happened for you. There's another side to it. And if you hold yourself accountable to answer that question and dig deeper, you will then find the benefits of what you thought was challenging. And that's a deeper gratitude. That's the grace. That's the one that you go, aha. That's when it gives you gamma synchronicities in the brain and aha moments when you integrate the brain. And that's the one that liberates people. The other one actually supports their fantasy. When people do what they want and they go, thank you, thank you, thank you, they become somewhat obligated and dependent on the person supporting them. But when people challenge you, they become precociously independent, more resourceful. Innovation, creativity, genius, and original thinking come from the challenges, not from the support. It comes from the challenges. We have to come up in new ways of looking at things. That's innovation comes from that. So our genius, it sits there dormant, is awakened to the degree that we receive the challenges and then come through them and come to a gratitude. So if we stack up the ratios and see only drawbacks and don't see the upsides, Well, then we become succumb to it. We then label it a trauma, and then we run our little story and our narrative, and then we get stuck. But if we go and find out the other side to it, because it's there.
Yes.
I always say there's nothing the mortal body can experience that the mortal soul can't love. There's not one thing. I've dealt with the most unbelievable stuff that people have gone through over the last 50 years. You know, things like it would just make people just churn inside. There's another side to it. And there's a way of bringing it to the surface, and it liberates people. And they have, you know, we have control over our perception, decisions, and actions in life. That's it.
That's
our
true.
sensory neurons, our interneurons, our motor neurons. If we take command of our perceptions, William James said the greatest discovery of his generation is that human beings can alter their lives and by altering their perceptions and attitudes of mind. We can become victims of history or masters of destiny by the way we ask the questions and hold ourselves accountable to get the answers, and then liberate ourselves from the valencies of incomplete awareness.
Wow. I love that. I remember I used to speak with a therapist on a weekly basis, and I was going through just some unimaginable various crises, literally back-to-back crises, Dr. Demartini. And so whenever I knew I was going to meet with my therapist, I felt like we would typically meet for at least an hour. I felt like I came prepared to just talk about all this negative stuff that I had gone through the week before. I had enough to fill that full hour. And when I tell you, every single session, he would always start by saying, I would sit down and he would sit down. He said, give me some good news. And I'd be like, but I'm not prepared to share any good news. I'm not prepared to say anything positive. I came ready with all of this negativity for you to help me. He said, I need you to give me some good news. And he did that every single session. And it got to the point where I realized two things. One is, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you have experienced, to your point, there is always some good in there somewhere. There is it's about perspective, as you said. There's always
When I was 7, just turning 7, 6 going on 7, I was in first grade. And I had a first grade teacher named Mrs. McLaughlin. And she was probably 70 something years old at the time.
Wow.
And I started that's when you start to read, right? You learn how to read.
Yes.
A big book sits there and they have a pointer and you learn how to say different syllables and stuff. And no matter what happened, I wasn't getting it. I couldn't pronounce the words or the letters or the phrase, the syllables. I wasn't getting any meaning. I had dyslexia. It wasn't working. I went to a speech pathologist when I was 1.5 years old and had learning problems. The teacher took me from normal reading to remedial reading, and then realized I wasn't going to be able to read, and stuck me with a dunce cap on with a guy named Dalrymple. We would face the window, and she said, well, when you decide to come and are willing to read, then you'll come back out in the class. No matter what, I wasn't able to do it. So she gathered my mom and dad and brought it into a little reading circle at her class for a little meeting. And she said to my parents, she says, I'm afraid your son has learning difficulties and disabilities. I'm afraid he's never going to be able to read. He's never going to be able to write. He's never going to be able to communicate effectively, probably won't go very far in life or amount to anything.
Wow.
That's what I was told in first grade.
Wow.
This is awful. I ended up only making it through school by asking smart kids questions. I'm known for my questions today because of it. Now, that worked until I was around 12. I was able to kind of get by and kind of be the clown of the class and dodge it and figure out a way of getting through until I moved to Richmond, Texas when I was 12. And there were no smart kids. We lived in a real low socioeconomic area in the kind of the farming community. There was no smart kids. So I dropped out. When I turned 13, I left home and that was the end of it.
Wow.
I wasn't going to do that. And was just under the belief that I would never be able to read, write, communicate, and amount of thing, never go very far in life. But I was pretty good on standing on a surfboard. I tried that at the beach. So I became a surfer. And I went to California, hitchhiked to Mexico, made enough money panhandling money at Huntington Beach, California to be able to fly to Hawaii. And I lived under a bridge and lived under a park bench and in a bathroom and an abandoned car and eventually a tent. And then I ended up nearly dying at 17.
Wow.
Surfing. And I was led to a little health food store, and then to a yoga class where I met Paul C. Bragg, who was lecturing. And he said something that shifted my perspective, that made me believe that maybe I could overcome my learning problems, maybe be able to read and write and communicate someday. That night when I met him was the first time in my life I thought maybe I could become intelligent. Well, guess what? 53 years later, coming this November, I learned how to read. 31,000 books now. I learned how to write, nearly 300 books. I learned how to communicate. Billions of people around the world, every possible medium. I just go very far in life. 21 million miles flying and about 1 million sailing. And I'm a mounting thing, 50 times financial independence. The very thing that was the crisis that I was told I would never be able to do was the catalyst in my life. So if people are sitting there wanting to run their story, a narrative about how they've been a victim of their history, stop. Ask the questions as your therapist did. How is this helping you fulfill something profound? How is this helping awaken your mission in life? How is this on the way, not in the way? How is this awakening to genius? I got to share one more story. I hope you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely.
So I had a boy that came to me.
Go ahead. I'm just thinking of those questions in my head. I need to write them all down.
I had this young boy come to me, and he had, again, dyslexia, and he was told the same thing, and learning disabilities, same thing. And when I got him, I was just thinking, this is my life. Here I am looking at myself. And his parents are concerned, and they've got labels by therapists and labels by school specialists and everything else. And I said, you know how to go online on your phone and look up things on Google? And he goes, yeah. He said, bring something up. I said, I want you to look up celebrities and famous people that were dyslexic. Bring up the list. There are over 700 of them. And I said, make up the list. And we went through them. And anyone that he recognized that were famous, that he knew the name of, I said, just know you're in that category, buddy. And then anyone he didn't know, we went and looked up so he could see the people who had done amazing things. These are all amazing, accomplished people. I said, you're not the average. You're sitting in that category, buddy. This is not a problem. This is an opportunity for you to be one of the people that make a difference in the world and leave your mark in the world. So let's find out how we can use your skill and your talent, because whenever you have a door shut, there's a new window of opportunity with other talents you have in your life, creative talents that come from whatever there's a constriction on. So this is an opportunity. His whole frame of reference shifted from I'm dyslexic with a label to I'm dyslexic, I'm one of those people that leave the mark in the world, like Richard Branson, for instance. So as he went through there and he saw those names, some of them he recognized, some we looked up, he got to realize that he's in a special category of people that are here to do extraordinary things. And his perspective, his drive, his ambitions shifted in that meeting, that hour. And all that stuff that they had labeled and told him and put him in a box was shattered. And so sometimes we want to find a diagnosis and put them in a label and look at statistics and instead of see the opportunities. So I think it's very important to be able to ask the right questions and help people see the other side of the equation.
I just think this is so powerful. I'm taking from it perception. It's so important, and I definitely feel like I could be asking more questions that you've been sharing, because I think instantly even just like having those kind of questions, it gets you thinking from worrying about a problem to put in your mind to, like, if it's something really negative, all of a sudden your mind's thinking of how this is serving you, how is it getting you towards your vision, how is this taking me to my purpose, what's the benefit towards this for me. So I think those questions can be so powerful, from just taking you from a mind of worry or judgment to really straight away you're asking questions where you're thinking, oh well, actually that's a positive, this is making me stronger, this is giving me more drive to even be a stronger person. So it's asking those questions, and straight away it's putting your mind in a different place of just being in a problem without seeking a solution.
You know, Norman Vincent Peale said something when I was 18 in one of his books. He said, if you ever wake up without a problem, get on your hands and knees and pray for one, because you died.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Think about it. Just stop and think about this. Imagine if nobody out there in your listening land had a problem. You're out of business.
Mm-mm.
Everybody is in business because they're solving a problem, filling a need, helping reframe things. So that your whole business, and I'm not talking about you, but I mean all of us, our business depends on people's problems. Now here's what we haven't thought probably. Our life depends on ours. Just like our business life depends on other people's problems and solving it. And whoever can solve those problems more effectively gets more opportunities. So we don't want to shrink from problems. We want to go and solve the biggest problems. The people who solve the biggest problems have the biggest lives. When Elon Musk says, I'm going to figure out how to go to Mars, that's a big problem. There's a lot of obstacles getting there.
Oh, yeah.
But he's going to make something that's billions of dollars worth of business out of doing it. So the question, when Microsoft put together Microsoft, and I've asked people around the world, how many have ever used Microsoft? Every hand goes up. He solved a problem with Windows at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is how big a problem are you willing to do? Because if you're trying to avoid problems, you're not going to have much of a life. But if you try to find the problems that inspire you to solve and fill your day with challenges that inspire you, that make a difference in people's lives, you're going to have a very fulfilling and unbelievable life, because you're going to fill it full with things that solve problems. Now, put yourself in that. You're selling to yourself. You have a problem. Now go solve it and get the reward and get the payment you get back from you, because your own fulfillment and thank you going back. Self-image is going to come out of that by you solving your own problems. That's self-reliance, as Emerson said in his essays on self-reliance. So don't shrink from problems. Find the problems that inspired you. Innovation, creativity, genius, original thinking comes out of solving problems that inspire you. Tackle them. Meet them head on.
Wow, I love it.
I'm definitely going to be getting the questions written down once this course finished. Some great questions to start asking myself. Dr. John, I thoroughly enjoyed having a conversation with you today. I think this show has been packed with so much wisdom, so much knowledge, and I think it's been really, really powerful. Now, I know people can connect with you at your website. So to connect with Dr. John, you can connect and get more information at drdemartini.com. That's drdemartini.com. Is there anything you want to share, Dr. John, that you're working on at the moment that you would like people to check out?
Well, if they're, I have a recently went out with a movie called The Breakthrough Movie. Breakthrough Movie, just Breakthrough Movie, Dr. Demartini. Just put Breakthrough Movie Demartini. It'll come up. It's a great hour and a half that'll bring a tear to your eye on reframing your so-called challenges into opportunities. If you can take advantage of that, I think it's on net, whatever the mediums, Amazon or whatever, for just under $10. It just might have a way of impacting your life. I could say if that people can take advantage of that, we're trying to get that message out there, and it'll help that way. But just know that no matter what you've been through, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what you're experiencing, just know that you're capable of transforming it into the greatest opportunity to change your life. And you will look back at it. If you ask the right questions, you'll look back at it as a catalyst and an opportunity to do something extraordinary with your life. The true you is magnificent. Don't let any misperception of the world around you interfere with the magnificence of who you are.
Brilliant.
Powerful. I will definitely check out that movie. Definitely. So give us the name, Breakthrough Movie, and
Breakthrough Movie,
Dr. John Demartini, and it will come up.
Yeah.
I will definitely check that out. I definitely think that will be a nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. John, thank you so much for being my guest today. I thoroughly enjoyed having a conversation with you as always. We're doing a big collaboration in October for Mental Health Awareness Day with great people in the mental health and entrepreneurship industry. Dr. Rhonda, did you want to say anything before we close today?
I just want to say it's been an honor and a pleasure to be able to interview with you, Dr. Demartini. I think you are just amazing, and I understand why you have risen to the position where you are. I appreciate your breakthrough method and experience, and I look forward to hearing more great things that you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. It's just been an amazing experience.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show again and for the great questions. And yeah, thank you for helping me help other people. Thank you.
The pleasure's been all ours. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. Until next time, bye for now. Brilliant show.